So I was working at a tattoo shop in Bouvier Street at one point.
What was it like for you cooking and working in that world? Because that's very different.
I was making $11 an hour working in the Lower East Side, working 18-hour shifts, 6 days a week.
And like, even though some of the people I grew up around and in my family were narrow-minded, like being able to have access to Manhattan in the 90s. What's going on, guys? It's everybody's favorite expat relocator rocking the Nepali scarf from Kathmandu. Nepal, you know how we do. I'm over here with my boy Jay. He is based out of Saigon. He's one of our previous customers. We helped him get set up with a new life over in Vietnam. Wow, seems like a long time ago. So he's been living in Vietnam through the whole pandemic situation, through the whole craziness that's been going on. And what we like to do at our channel is we like to bring you guys expats' real experiences, what they're going through, how they interpret things, you know, so that way you're not just hearing my opinion, but you're meeting my network, you're meeting people I've helped and worked with, and you're getting their perspective as well. When you work with us, you're not just working with me, you're working with a massive network in a number of different countries of people who, you know each other and share information. So this is just going to be one great example of that. First, I'd like to start, Jay, tell us about how you first started thinking about moving to Vietnam and how contacting us and everything, how that went about.
All right, so I was in Japan like before I moved to Vietnam. So I was there for about maybe 6 months as a private contractor for the US Navy. I was a confined space supervisor for these fuel tanks for the nuclear submarines. And basically what they did down there, the work was just blasting and coating, like industrial blasting and coating. And my job was just to watch over, you know, the confined space to make sure when they all left and they all came in, everyone was safe. Yeah, and then basically, someone died, so my contract finished. Everybody, you know, the whole contract for the company finished, and so I had a choice to either go back to the U.S. or stay in Asia. And I had a friend that I met in New York a while back before then, and then he asked me, like, if you ever need any help, you come and contact me. I moved to Vietnam. This is almost 4 years ago, and you know, I was actually a chef by trade, so it was just, you know, trying to, you know, I'm a nomadic kind of guy. I'm a nomadic chef. But
that's freaking cool. Why don't you have a YouTube?
Yeah, so I have one, but I've never really done much with it, to be honest. But I've gained more inspiration from you. Yeah, I have one, but yeah. So just watching you, actually, you inspire me a lot. So, but I don't think I have the time or the, you know, I'm just too lazy, basically, you know. But honestly, so I moved to Vietnam just cooking, you know, at my friend's bar restaurant. It was all right, you know, it was a good experience. But then, you know, once we sold this restaurant, I had to go on my own. And then eventually, over a couple of years after living in Saigon and then moving into Hoi An and Sapa, cooking, and then dealing with like shady business people. In the back of my mind, I'm like, how can I get into teaching, you know? And I'm like, you know, I think between that time I was watching your, you know, I caught on your YouTube channel and I was like, okay, you know, you made it seem easy, and which it is, but it's just difficult for someone that really, like, I don't know, I was just not confident enough. And I think this is like literally during that pandemic, you know, I called you like, okay, how about I take it back? Okay, so I was working at a tattoo shop in Bouvier Street at one point, and then I was managing a tattoo shop, and then the pandemic hit and they shut down. And I'm like, so like basically, I remember messaging you, and you pretty much, you know, you took care of me, and then you set me up with some, you know, with your contacts, and from there, like, my life just, you know, shut up, you know. Honestly,
that's amazing.
It changed my life. You know, that's pretty much the gist of it. But honestly, yeah, there's more to it. But yeah, definitely that's the premise, I guess.
That's amazing. So you said it changed your life?
Definitely. I'm more financially stable now, to be honest. I mean, obviously we're not working full time now, but what I was getting during the pandemic, I mean, I was making way more money than I would be cooking, because there wasn't any cooking jobs. So what we making did, you know, basically make any money. Yeah.
What was it like for you cooking and working in that world? Because that's very different. Like, the majority of foreigners will go there, they'll do the ESL work, they'll maybe go with a private company, or they'll have a government job, or they're investors. But going into the cooking world, I've always thought of it as interesting. People who work in hospitality from the West that are positioned in these hotels in Asia, like the Cavalier has people from France working there. You know, what was that world like?
Well, like I went on a nomadic route, I guess. Like I definitely didn't go to the hotels. I mean, I could qualify, but I didn't want to like be a slave to the hotels. I know it would be the same thing as living in the West. I mean, as a
Is it?
chef, you're pretty much a slave. But like if I'm working for a little bar, a little restaurant here or there, I have more freedom, to work my creativity. That's why I kind of chose that route and not like can find, oh, let me go to the Marriott and have that lavish life. It pays really well, but you're just sacrificing your life to them, So I'd rather just take it easy, and if I wanted to quit, I can quit. Back in the day, remember a few years ago, you can just live off a tourist visa, before all this, shenanigans happened.
Do you remember how it was just pay to play? It was just like you got, and it wasn't much. It was like a few $100. If you have a problem, no matter what, you can fix it. It was just such a different thing. I think this is one of the things that's so widely misunderstood on like Facebook forums and stuff is people don't realize that you get these trolls who say things like, oh, Vietnam is just getting rid of all the garbage and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you got to understand, Vietnam had used the same visa policy for like 10 years. Like these people who are getting thrown out of the country, they weren't doing anything wrong. They were just doing what the system was. That's just how it worked, for like the longest period of time.
To be honest, it's easier for them to do that, just completely get rid of that old system and just change it to a new thing, because they're not gonna like individually pick. It costs money and time. They don't have that. They'd rather just like have you deal with the problem. They wash their hands clean, basically. I mean, you've noticed it more than I did because you dealt with a lot of customers and people that, you heard a lot of stories. I mean, luckily I just fell through the cracks. I got the TRC like months before, the big shutdown basically. And, I got lucky.
You were okay through all this. That's great.
Somehow the school that, that they contracted me gave me a 2-year TRC, and I basically, and then like a couple months later, they pretty much shut down the visa situation.
Was this the one who got you?
Yes, definitely. Yes, it's the school. Yeah.
Cool.
So one of the schools decided to sponsor me, and they took care of me.
So going from hospitality to ESL to the craziness of public schools, give me your opinion. Like compare those two worlds.
So like I'm teaching children, so it's different. They're pretty much like my boss. If they don't like me, they're gonna kick me out. The school is just like, okay, get them out. You don't like them, But like I don't know. I just figured like dealing with. I mean, I dealt with like adult children basically, and like all types of people in kitchens from all over the world. So like I'm kind of good at reading people, reading kids, and just trying to, for them, I want to make them laugh. I want to make them have a good time, because I know how the school system is. It's a mess, especially the public schools. I mean, no, nothing bad about it, but that's how it is. We're basically babysitters that speak English.
When you see this video, it's going to be on our new channel. So I want you guys to go through and check out my old channel. We'll post the link here where we talked about, everything from my traveling and my English teaching. And I have like an extensive library on videos on what it's like to teach over there. And what Jay said here is absolutely true. The school system is fucked. So when I was teaching, my philosophy in Vietnam was just let everybody have a good time, because it was the 1 hour a day where somebody wasn't screaming at them or hitting them or yelling at them. And with me, yeah, sure, maybe they didn't get like a structured hoity-toity lesson plan, but they all had a really good time. Everybody was happy, and the fucking schools loved me.
Exactly. I mean, I learned that watching your videos. I got some advice just watching your videos, and it works. Honestly, I mean, they're learning English. Maybe they don't speak it well, but they learn from their Vietnamese English teacher. They learn all that stuff. But I mean, they will learn some English from you. They'll gain more confidence in speaking it because of the foreigner. Basically, if you really want to feel, well, it's just pretty much having fun in English. They might pick up some words here or there, but it's going to be in the back of their mind. It's not like you're going to teach them 100% whatever. They're not going to be speaking to you 100%. But some students do pick it up and some don't. And that's how it is. Every student is different. We're not robots.
No, that's really cool that you took to it and that you've enjoyed doing it and that you're making the best of it. Now, you said your COVID experience was pretty crazy. So take us from, I left right before Directive 16. You know, I have made a lot of content around Bintan, District 2, District 1 around that time. I did a lot of filming and walking on the other channel. You were there through Directive 15. You were there through the beginning of the pandemic. But I'm going to guess that things got really crazy around Directive 16, right?
It did actually. When the military came in, well, supposedly, I mean, they didn't do much. I mean, not trying to, you know, they did their part, but they didn't, you know, I guess the media said they were going to do, I guess, food rationing for people, I guess, but I guess they didn't do that. It was crazy, you know. My place, I lived, at that time, I just moved like a few weeks ago, but at the time I was living in a ham, and they shut the ham down, you know, and then I couldn't get out. Luckily, I had a water filter, so I didn't have to worry about water. I knew I can survive for 30 days with it. I had a bag of rice because, you know, as a chef, I always have some food laying around. But that's just, you know, and then luckily I have skills of cooking skills. So, and I had some food, you know, they're ready to like, you know, ready for the shenanigans because honestly, a lot of people I heard couldn't get food for a long time.
Yeah, people starved.
You know, especially the poor Vietnamese people, you know, they died before COVID got them, you know, like, I mean, poor things, you know, poor people, they're like literally starving. And I heard of people, you know, throwing food off the truck because they didn't want to catch COVID. So they were just tossing the food to them, you know, and then people chasing them. So, you know, it is crazy. You know, I was locked in my apartment. I couldn't get out, couldn't get any food. Luckily, my landlord was, you know, she was very kind and she was head of the ward,
Oh,
basically.
good.
So literally, she lived below me, like a couple, yeah, she lived on the first floor and I lived on the third floor. But yeah, I guess she had connection, so I was lucky, but we could not leave the apartment building. We couldn't, you know, we're not allowed to because she didn't want us to spread out the whatever, the COVID.
So I was living in
COVID.
District 2. I was on Hanoi Highway and I was in one of those towers right before the end of it. When I left, you could still go to a massage place and like knock on the door and then they would sneak and see who it was and let you in. Or you could still go to like, you know, buy things. And then I left the day that it changed to Directive 16. I flew to the Balkans because my contacts had told me that if you don't need to be in Vietnam for the next few months, you should get out of there for a bit.
Yeah, you did the
And
right
like,
thing. Like honestly, it was literally it was like for me that Director 16 was mind numbing. I stayed in my place, basically got naked, just walked around, just whatever whatever it was just like I wasn't thinking. I have no books, I was at the time, yeah, I had my just my laptop, but I didn't even want to get online. I was just like it was depressing, just like laying in bed for like 20 hours, just being useless. It was just luckily like I have a strong will, I guess. If you don't have a strong will, especially down in that time, you would go nuts, you know. So I just shut down. I was like completely just shut down. I gained like 20 pounds or whatever. I was just, yeah, it was pretty depressing. But I can see why a lot of people, like, well, COVID for my experience, like for my family, none of them got it until they were, until they got locked down because something happened to them. Like let's say they got sick from something else, and then they got COVID because they were locked in their homes. At least with my family. But I've also heard as well that if you're not exercising, especially for the old people, they're not allowed to go outside. They can't get fresh air. I mean, I heard that a lot of them died that way because they were locked in their homes. I don't know if you heard of something like that before, or any stories like
no,
that about.
yeah, no, I've heard
Like you need
people
exercise and
starved.
you need sun, starving as well. Starving, especially starving. It was just senseless, a senseless tragedy right there. In
Wow.
my opinion.
Wow. Damn, bro. That's an intense thing to go through. I just listened to my contacts and, like we were speaking and, I was asking, well, do you see this getting better? And everyone just kept saying, listen, if you don't have to be here, but my TRC was good. I could have stayed until actually this month right now would have been my TRC. But,
Yeah.
It just people I respect and people I trust were saying things to me like, it's our turn now and we dropped the ball. And I'm like, fuck, that doesn't sound good. And I had already heard a little bit about how it had been in Govap district in Saigon, but that's where Directive 16 had happened much sooner. They were on that kind of, but it wasn't as intense because the rest of the city was open at the time,
Yeah,
Like
I remember that.
Govap was being strangled, but like where I was at, like you said, you could still go and you could still easily go to most convenience stores and restaurants and like,
I like before Director 16, it was like touch and go. Luckily, I have friends in the restaurant industry and hospitality, So I kind of have that connection where they can let me, they know me already, so they'll let me in to get a little pint or something to eat or whatever, But then I just got really, couldn't get out at all. Like once they said the military was coming, that's it. I saw a couple of trucks, but they usually I think they stayed in one area and they just didn't move from there. And they just guarded, they put the gates up, the borders or whatever, barricades. I remember one time at the end of Directive 15, kind of towards it, I could walk out, but they won't let me shop at Circle K. They would tell me, no, you gotta go order. Even though the Circle K is like a block away, I have to order delivery, which is fine with me, but it's a little bit annoying. You can't really do much. You're kind of like a slave at that point.
Wow. So that was an intense lockdown experience for you. Like you were on a small hem, so you weren't even off of a main road. Or are you in a private house, or are you in a high rise?
Yeah, it wasn't it was like a 4-story, 5-story apartment building. It was just like it felt like a big house because it was our landlord's place, and she just rented out apartments, studios in the air, and upstairs. But it felt like it was a bit claustrophobic. I'm not gonna lie. Now I moved to a bigger spot now because of that. Just in case if this DirectX 16 or whatever .2 comes back, I know I can at least enjoy.
Are you ready for Deltacron?
Deltacron, man, I'm ready for like Variant Z, I'm ready for that zombie shit, like bring that on. Like
That's I don't know.
man,
I don't know if a crowded Asian megacity is where you want to be for the zombie apocalypse.
I don't know. I kind of do. I just want to. If I have to go out that way, might as well make it fun.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, let's see if what is it? The Walking Dead was maybe I can get some references from there, maybe some pointers. Like
yeah, hide in a prison. It's like a big fortress.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the prison? Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, man, I decided after everything that I had seen between the visa side that was going on behind closed doors and between the things I was hearing about the pandemic and the vast amount of people that were getting it and that how it was being underreported by the local media and stuff, I felt like it was right to leave. So I left. And now I'm probably going to relocate to Cambodia soon because I just feel like throughout the whole pandemic, they never did this kind of a lockdown. They just charged the foreigners the same amount of money if they wanted to renew their visas. It just seems like even though it's not as exciting as Vietnam, it seems much easier and more stable and safer to deal with them.
I've never been to Cambodia except the visa runs. I never really depend on pen. I'm a bad traveler or a tourist, I guess. I haven't even been to Thailand, to be honest. I just been staying in Vietnam. I've been lazy.
Bro, they're all cool. You should.
Yeah, I will definitely will. This is like once all this is over, I'm down. When you're in Cambodia, I would love to visit you in Cambodia. I think that would be an interesting experience, and even travel more. All over Southeast Asia. It's a beautiful area.
It is.
You're in the Balkans. That's a great place. The world's a beautiful place.
Oh man, the Balkans is fantastic. To make money is Southeast Asia, but if you have a little bit of money and you're looking to do something, this is such a nice life because it's like a European lifestyle, but for the cost of most of Southeast Asia.
So like a digital nomad, just crypto people that want to find a place where they can, chill and get their money's worth. I definitely, I can see that the Balkan areas are, that's where it's at.
Like you don't get as much for your money as Asia because like obviously it's Europe, but the further you go from the main cities, like if you leave the capitals, then it becomes almost the same as living in like, I wouldn't say provincial Vietnam, but like the same as like Saigon,
Which is fair. Because there's a bunch of like rich European countries, next door and they want to travel there, it's all fair in a sense, like you can't really complain if it's cheaper than London or like, somewhere like in Paris, and and it's probably probably a lot better than being in London or Paris in the Balkans, right? So you are kind of getting your money's worth, especially for you're in Europe basically, and I think that's a great thing.
It's chill, it's safe, it's way cheaper than Western Europe, and you can take a ferry from here to Italy. But like everywhere else in the world, the pandemic makes moving around. I'm not real too keen to be in the European Union at the moment. You know, the Balkans is still a little bit less crazy with the masks and all this stuff going on. How is it now in Saigon? How is daily life in terms of like, do you have to scan barcodes? Are you being forced to vaccinate? Are you being forced to vaccinate more than once, twice? Just tell us what's life like.
So in the beginning, when they started vaccinating everyone in the masses, it was not forced, but it was encouraged, at least for the foreigners. I actually had to kind of sneak in and cut the line, like literally to get vaccinated. It kind of, I wasn't desperate, but I didn't want to be like, if that was going to be the rules, I didn't want to be stuck in my apartment. I was like, fuck this. Give me that shit, give me that jab, and let's get it over with. If I die, I die. But honestly, the first time it was just kind of weird. I don't know, like it was just chaos. Everybody was just trying to like get vaccinated, like all the local people, and I was just like cutting in line. Luckily, one of the doctors or nurses, they're like, oh yeah, okay, just come with me. He spoke English to me, and he just brought me and said, okay, sign here, sign here, sign here. Took my vitals. Okay, you're good. Boom, get out. Like, and then yeah, basically the second time as well. But yeah, now technically today everything's legal. Like bars, everything can legally open. But for the past few months, I've been going out, to my friends' places. I haven't seen any barcodes. They have the barcodes there, but to be honest, I haven't used them. I just pretend I do it. And I carry like a little, like I printed out the QR code for the vaccine. I printed it out so I don't have to take my cell phone out. They can scan it if they want to. So if I do take it sometimes, but it's kind of, honestly, it's like maybe 80%. No one really asks for your QR code. From my experience, I don't go out that much. I need to my places that I usually go to. So it could be different for someone else. But I've heard of a friend of mine, that he's a freelance worker and he can't get work because he didn't get vaccinated here in Vietnam. So I think for work you have to be vaccinated at least with 2 jabs, from what I've heard. From my experience, they are recommending the 3rd one for the schools, but I haven't done it since I just recently got my 2nd one like a few months ago. So I'm gonna wait another 3 more months and then see what the government says. If it's necessary, then I'll do it. It is what it is, you gotta respect the country you're in, follow the law. How is it in the Balkans? What can you tell me, if I can, from your experience?
There is no COVID in Albania. There's no such thing. Nobody wears masks. Nobody gives a shit. People get COVID. Nobody treats them differently. Like the lady at my bagel store had COVID. She came back. She wore her mask and stuff, but she didn't, nobody treated her weirdly. And this is a community where people, hang out, drink coffee. They know each other. Everyone here has had COVID 2 or 3 times already. And the way that Albania does the vaccinations is so logical. They just make it available and free. And they put them in 2 main sites where you can go and get it, at the Air Albania Stadium or in Skanderbeg Square, which is a big public square in the center of the city. You can go to either of those places and do it, and nobody asks for any money. It's just easy peasy. And if you don't want to do it, no one's going to bother you. You're supposed to wear masks, but in stores and shit, but nobody does it. It is what it is.
It's your responsibility to take care of yourself, and that's what it should be. Even if it sounds a little cold, like to say that, like, yeah, I have family members that passed away from it, but it is what it is, and I don't know, like, it's complicated, but yeah, I think it's just, you have to be responsible for what you do, and like, if you think you're gonna die from it, then just take care of yourself, be healthy, exercise, wear a mask.
I think people who have comorbidities or who are obese or are old, they should definitely get it. And I got it. Because I got to travel. This is what I do. And, I have to have this. And I also want to give myself a chance of not getting COVID while I travel, So it makes sense, right? But, I don't see the sense of allowing a government to have this kind of control, right? Like, for me, it's not a question of the pandemic. It's a question of, once we give this to the people that run the world, they're never going to give it back. This is,
Exactly. Look at Australia. They're probably the best example of like how like disgusting their government is when it comes to this situation, how they just overstepped the line, like they jumped over the line and then like, no, we're not coming back. You're like, this is us now. This is what we're doing. That shit's scary. And they're luckily they're not, they're not known to be like a violent country. I mean, in terms of the government being so violent. Like, let's say if the U.S. did that, man. They do it slowly. I mean, they're like more methodical with it. But Australia just, just let that. Canada probably did the same thing, and maybe other countries as well. But from what I've seen I don't know.
I lived in New Zealand for 4 years, and I had residency there. And New Zealand and Australia are the places where these type of things are tested, because they're small English-speaking populations that are very culturally similar to the U.S. They follow our media. They have the British accent to some extent, but they're much more like Americans than you would think they are. My wife's family is all in Australia, and we're very connected to Australia. So for us, it's quite a shame that this is happening. But this is a great point you bring up. And I think this is one of the reasons why, even though you guys went through some horrific stuff, why places like Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, even though it's complicated to be in these places, you can still potentially make money. There's opportunities. Whereas in these big Western countries, it's becoming more and more authoritarian, and there's not much in the way of opportunities for small businesses or for people to build real wealth.
Definitely, I agree with that. Like, my goal is next year is to open my restaurant. That's my dream. It's been my dream since I was a kid. So having here in Saigon and maybe around mid 2023 is my goal, to have my little restaurant in Saigon. So definitely, I see the opportunity here versus other places like the U.S. Like, you can't open a restaurant in New York unless you have family connections or, wealth, or like, good like credit, which doesn't really exist. Like when I lived in New York, this is from my experience. It's a hard life. I mean, if and I, you're a fellow New Yorker, so you know how difficult it is. You have to adapt so much because it's getting so expensive. The wages aren't going up. People are moving and going. And then it's just it's the beautiful thing about New York is the people. That's what makes the city, the real New York people. But it's just that that's like it's the example for the world, at least. I would say for the U.S., New York is a place where they test first on the New York people, on the New Yorkers, basically.
Of course.
Yeah, they test everything on the New Yorkers, 100%, and then they test it on the rest of the states, and then it kind of trickles down to the rest of the world. But they already did the passports. I don't know how that's going. What have you heard? I don't mean to like.
No,
ask.
You,
but like, what's just the situation in New York from your
Well, I interviewed a friend. So this is all going to be on this new channel that you guys are watching now. Again, once we'll pop our old channel up here. We interviewed a friend of mine, and he's from my neighborhood in Brooklyn South. Like we met in Diker Heights, but he's originally from Brighton Beach area, and one of my best friends. And I just wanted to catch up with him. And like, he told me a bit about how his mother had passed away, and they couldn't be at the burial. They had to park in a car and like look out the window, and like, they almost couldn't get her buried because there were so many people dying. And like, he said it was all bad. And then the state became extremely authoritarian about how they controlled it, and like these shutdowns. And now at this point, he thinks that there could be even more lockdowns and more shutdowns coming. He was telling me rents in my mom's old neighborhood. My mom used to live on 3rd Avenue in Bay Ridge. She was paying, when she left, she was paying like $1,500 a month for a 1-bedroom. He said on that area, it could easily be $2,000 a month. So I just don't see how anyone who grew up in New York, when I grew up, I don't know, or what age you are, but like, I was born in the 80s, and like New York today, I don't think I would recognize New York today compared to the New York I grew up in.
Yeah, I'm not from New York. I'm from California, but I was there for 4 years. I lived in Sunset Park when I first moved there, so I know Bay Ridge very well.
Get out of here!
Yeah. So in the Chinatown side on 8th Avenue, 8th and 40th Street.
Yeah. Oh, my friend owned Itzocan Tattoos. I think it's an Aztec word, Itzocan. But he was a Mexican guy. He owned a tattoo shop over there.
I was at that time. I got my tattoos in Saigon when I first got them at 28. I'm 33 now, so I mean, I love this. The South Brooklyn is, you meet real people there. Like the real New Yorkers are still there.
It's the
Honestly,
real city. It's the real
it
city,
really
but
is. It's great food, good people. Everybody's like just hardworking and like very humble too. Like I never had any problems. So I loved it when I first moved there, and I was like, I'm not moving from here. And so basically, that's where I stayed. And it
well, they
was.
fucked it up. Houses are like over like $2 million, and the
Mm,
fucking overseas investors have come in and bought almost all the real estate. And for all the people in my neighborhood who talked about the neighborhood, most of their families sold their homes and they moved out to Staten Island or New Jersey. Even some
mhm.
of my friends who were just they had to go out to Staten Island or Jersey because there was just nowhere they could possibly get a property like of any kind like one of my buddies, we interviewed him recently, and him and his father bought a house for $500,000 in Staten Island, and he made it sound like that's cheap, like a good deal. And then you look at countries like here in the Balkans or where you are in Saigon, and can you imagine what you could do in those places with $500,000?
Too much, too much. I don't know. I don't think you need to buy. Just you retire on. That's like retirement. If you do it
You
well, you
never
can
need to
retire.
work again.
Never, not really. If you live a simple life, you can retire at 30 or whatever. 40. To be honest, you can invest it in a business and just if you make residual income with that, you can do so much with that. Like it goes far.
Do you have the same issue I have, like trying to make family understand like how inexpensive some of these countries really are and like what opportunities exist? Because a lot of my family thinks I'm crazy, but I look at their life and I think that they're the ones that are crazy. They're the ones that are living miserable lives, working themselves to death,
Hmm.
and I enjoy most of my life. And it seems like even after the crazy dark COVID experience you had, you still want to stay in Vietnam.
Yeah, honestly, I do. I couldn't see myself. I mean, I was a chef. Like I was working like living in New York. I was making $11 an hour in working in the Lower East Side, working 18-hour shifts, 6 days a week. As an alcoholic, I would just go after the work. I would go to the bar. They don't close till 4. Then I'll go to someone's house, a couple hours, and take a quick shower. Go back to work. Do the same thing for a week straight. It's hard work. And this is 11 bucks in New York is nothing. It's shit.
Hmm.
It's pennies. It's
Yeah, it's bad.
peanuts. Yeah. Then at a point, I somehow I moved up the social ladder. I guess I met someone at a bar, and they were like a private chef. They offered me an opportunity. I took it, and then I was making from 11 bucks, and I was making 30 bucks an hour, and then so on and so forth. But like, yeah, honestly, at that time, I wasn't responsible as well. So that's something that I didn't have the education or the discipline. Like I left the house when I was 17.
Me
So
too.
yeah, so like I just didn't have any. I mean, cooking was there for me. It's always been there, but then it was just like alcohol and people influence you to do things that you don't want to do, and then like I said, you don't have that discipline, and that's what kind of like derailed my life around. And like I just knew it. Like when I moved to Tokyo. Okay, so this is like the first time I moved to Tokyo was in 2012. I was living
Mhm.
in San Francisco like for 5 years before, and when I went to Tokyo for like maybe 5 months, 8 months after the earthquake they had in Japan, and that was my first time traveling abroad. But then I realized like, holy shit, this is a different world. This is another life. And I was like, there's more to life versus being in the West. And then I kind of had a
Oh
feeling
yeah.
that I wanted to live there. And then I made it my goal so the next year to move there, and that's exactly what I did. I went back to San
Mhm.
Francisco, worked 3 jobs, hustled, did whatever I had to do, and then moved my ass to Tokyo. And that was the first time I did it. I was I think 20, 21, 22 at the time,
Mm.
and then it was a good experience being there for a year, going there to working at a little restaurant, getting to meet new people. It was a cool experience. I'm not gonna lie, but it's difficult to live there. But at the time, I never thought, it was like 8 years later, I was gonna be in Vietnam. It was never in the back of my mind, but it just happened. Then I moved from Tokyo. I moved to New York City, and that's where I appreciated the U.S. even more because of it, because I didn't really fit in anywhere else. But I said New York City would be like a place. If I was living in the States, it would be a place that I can fit in, where everybody is just accepting. But it is a difficult place to be. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, as you know, more than anyone.
Yeah, our lives weren't great, but I'll be honest with you, like growing up in New York in the 90s and stuff, because I was born in the 80s, came of age in the 90s. Our lives were difficult, and like there was a lot of shit going on, but it was also kind of an interesting time because we had graffiti culture and we had hardcore punk and we had hip hop and we had raves, and there was just like a whole lot of culture and like a lot of stuff to get yourself into. And like, even though some of the people I grew up around and in my family were narrow-minded, like being able to have access to Manhattan in the 90s, and we have to remember, like when I was young, working class people still lived in Manhattan. Like I had friends who were Puerto Rican, they had lived in Manhattan for generations. Today it's getting harder and harder to find that because they're gentrifying the area, they're replacing the big towers with these kind of mixed apartments where they have some poor people and they'll have like a separate door for the poor people and a separate door for the rich people.
So are they knocking down the projects to like kind of make up for like this affordable housing? Is that the new thing?
Yeah, they're calling it affordable housing now, and they're gentrifying areas where like you had a lot of historically working class people, and it's not just like Black or Hispanic people. I mean, you can go to Greenpoint in Brooklyn was like a very Polish neighborhood. And I'm sure that it still is to some extent, but the last time I was there was just nothing but hipster restaurants, cafes, and out of towners. It was very strange.
Yeah, I was there in 2017 when I moved out. Yeah, it was just so gentrified. I mean, Greenpoint, it was pretty much what you said. There is some projects, I guess, in Manhattan, but there's not many. But I would assume that they're knocking them down just to pretend that they're gonna be affordable housing, right? Like someone that makes like $60,000 a year might get a cheap apartment.
I was thinking that's probably what they're going to do because all the previous mayors have had strong relationships with the developers. I mean, it's just, I don't see it getting better. So I mean, if you're a family in New York and you're thinking about like, do I have a future in this place? I actually think, despite some of the challenges of dealing with like governments like Vietnam or governments in Southeast Asia, it still may be beneficial compared to living in a place like New York. Like I think Saigon can offer you a lot more opportunity. And despite the unpleasant experiences, I mean, like you said, things do appear to be getting back to normal. Are you hearing any word on the street about possible additional lockdowns, or what's the buzz?
What I feel, I think people now in the government, at least for the people here, just as long as you have a mask, and well, they're not really enforcing it, but I think that's the norm. Just have a mask on, and it should be fine. I don't think they. I think they can't afford to stay locked down. I don't think they want to starve to death. Though at least the working class people here can't afford another lockdown. They can't. I mean, it's impossible to feed everyone in a city like Saigon. I mean, if you're in the Kuchi province or the province that's small, you can live off the land. You can, but in Saigon, it's nearly impossible. Like I said, when I thought the military was going to help and feed people, they were, but they're in a station in one place where not many people got access to that, to that area, those areas that they were stationed at for feeding the people. So from what I've heard, I think people are just moving on and dealing with slowly realizing that we're all going to get it. We're all going to get COVID at some point, or and we're going to have to deal with it.
I agree. I don't see the point of crushing poor people. It doesn't, and it's not just it happening in Vietnam. It's the United States. It's Western Europe is being completely insane. I mean,
especially in Vietnam. Like, I don't know if you've seen those videos going around. Like, let's say when they first opened the borders here in Saigon. I mean, you weren't here for that, but I'm sure you probably heard of it. People, the working class people that couldn't afford to stay anymore, they just went back home to the hometowns.
Yeah.
And they were blockading them, and they were like fighting, and eventually they fought through this big, this whatever military or whatever, the police, that blockaded police. They just basically tore through them and like, we're going home. Fuck this place. It's not worth it. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm gonna just live off the land. They realized, some of them woke up and like, fuck this. I'm just going back to the farm. So I work, or whatever, my hometown, where I can get free food, where I have access to, to a good community, where they care for me, and and then I think that kind of woke up. I'm assuming that woke up some of the government, like like in terms of like you just got to keep it going. You can't stay up locked up. I mean, they tried, they tried, but then they dropped the ball a few times. They did a good job the
It was
first wave.
great in the beginning. In the beginning, it was amazing what they
It was
were doing.
amazing. It made sense. The way they did it made sense. But then somehow those other directors, I'm not there to shun them or whatever. Just because I'm here. I don't want to get in trouble. But to be honest, yeah, it's just they should have just stuck with that routine if that was the case. That was a good formula. The first, what director was that? The one on the
Oh,
first wave?
there
Do you know?
it was
Or
15 was the one where you could still go to things and things were open and you could, but there was some restriction. Like you remember during the first lockdown where they really locked it down, you could still walk to the supermarkets and it was more of an adventure at that time than it was like what it became.
yeah, I think people were just scared of getting it, so they did it themselves. It's not like it was forced. It was just like they informed the people, and the people were like, "Oh, okay, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to die." So they kind of hid back and went back to their hometowns or whatever, which was fine, and everything seemed fine. Yeah, you could go out. Yeah, it was empty. It was a ghost town, but it didn't feel so like forced, and then it was kind of safe in a sense.
Yeah, it
They
was.
should have
And
kept.
and there was a different government at the time. So
Oh,
like
okay.
right before this Directive 16 thing happened, actually right before reunification day, because I was in Da Nang and I was visiting my business partner and some of my friends up there. And we were just hanging out. We were hearing in the wind that like there was so many people on Vung Tau Beach that they were flying drones over it and just filming this like sea of people. And this was right before the Delta thing popped off. So everybody couldn't have Tet last year. So they partied really hard on reunification day.
In Vung Tau during that time, but I was in my friend's bar, so I didn't go to the beach. But
Oh, you were there when everybody was out there, reunification day weekend?
yeah, I was just at my friend's bar in Vung Tau, but I didn't go to the beach. But I didn't really notice that much people going out because I was just like in that area. Like I didn't go out of my friend's bar, but people went
Right.
out as they should have. But I guess they I think they I don't know, the people they're losing their control over people. Maybe that could have been a power move and a good excuse to you know it could have been I'm just speculating at this point, but I mean you're right. I mean like your people you got the best connects.
Thanks,
You
man.
do. Oh,
You
you do.
know,
Like you just do. Please continue.
no, I was gonna say like, the way that everything kind of unfolded was like, the Delta thing started to spread wildly, and then the election came about, and the faction that was a little bit more pro-China style, they came into power. So,
Mm-hmm.
even though the Vietnamese don't necessarily like China, you talk to Vietnamese people, they don't like the Chinese much, but there is political factions that have more similar ideas to the way China does things versus the way the West does things. And now this is not political commentary. I don't have an opinion, but this is
Yeah.
basically kind of what happened was that faction became kind of like the Law and Order faction, you know what I mean? Where he wrote in on the idea that we're going to clean up corruption, but you can see how it manifested itself as a way of just purging and extorting foreigners. Like literally everybody I know right now who has needed to get an emergency TRC has spent almost $10,000. I mean, we can do it, but it's just I've never seen such extortion from officials. Like normally to get off a blacklist would cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 if you knew who to pay. Now, $5,000 to get off a blacklist is becoming a norm. It's becoming something immigration says on a regular basis.
2 grand is a lot for here. It's like a lot, and then that kind of extortion, my God, that's like
5 grand.
5 grand. Yeah, it's unheard of, man. That's like a year's pay for some local. That's like literally a year's wage.
So you
Someone.
can see that with Vietnam, and this is good advice to anybody who's thinking of coming and doing business or living in Vietnam. Vietnam's like a casino. You sometimes, if you know when it's time to walk away, you can walk away with a lot of money. but it's also a place where if you sit at the table for too long, inevitably you are going to lose. So, you know, unless you're married to a Vietnamese, you know, or you're Viet Q and you have ancestry, then I would probably say this is a great place to come, get your money. But for a long-term relocation, places like the Balkans, Central America, these type of places I think are better.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. Like I said, it'll be like that 10% chance that you'll do very well and stay here for a long time in Vietnam, which is like a beautiful thing. You know, it might get better. Nobody knows, but yeah, you're better off making your money and investing it somewhere else. Finding the right people, how to move money around as well to your country.
We can
That's something
help.
that, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what the New York Nomad, can do that for you. I 100%, like, he will give you the best advice. And but honestly, yeah, it's exactly, that's 100% what he said. Either you're married Vietnamese or you're Viet Q. Those are the best options. But obviously, you're not here to do that. Test the waters, see how you feel. Like, you'll find your way. That's so many directions you could come from. But the majority of the people are big investors here. Like a lot of, like, I met a lot of people that are very wealthy. They come here to invest. They open factories. And they make good money here. It's not like you don't have to just teach English. You can. Which I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. But you don't have to do that. You can definitely do your own business. You can do pretty much anything. You just have to test the market. And now Vietnam is opening up. Like, people are very aware of what's going on when, like, they're open to new things.
I just want to say, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for watching and listening to our little conversation. I'm going to keep bringing you more people from all over the world. I'm going to bring you guys expats. I'm going to bring you people living in America, Australia. We're going to try to talk to people all over the world and get some perspective. And then hopefully we'll see which is the better way to live, which is the better lifestyle for you, because I think it helps to hear other people's perspectives, especially if you're thinking about going to a different part of the world or moving somewhere new, even in your own country, to get some context from someone who's there and who's had an experience. If you guys are thinking about getting a TEFL, check out the New York TEFL Academy. It's the TEFL you cannot fail. If you need help with getting into Cambodia or Vietnam, we have contacts with reliable visa agents, real estate agents, people for HR. We have contacts for drivers. We can pretty much do just about anything for you in Southeast Asia. We have contacts for opening businesses in Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. We have workarounds to get around some of the more challenging requirements because, we understand how to work with people in Asia, and we understand what we can do and what we can't do, and how to balance that to keep our customers as safe as possible, and at the very least as informed as possible. We also are offering out services for opening businesses in Albania. We can get you set up out here if you're an online worker. The lifestyle is incredible, and you're close to all of Western Europe. We are expanding into Costa Rica, Chile, and obviously any other popular expat destination. We're going to try to have some sort of contacts and relationships for you guys. So it's an exciting time for us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for doing the interview, Jay. We appreciate you. You are the man. And guys, subscribe, share. Please check out my old channel. This is our new channel where we're going to do all consulting related content. Our old channel is a little bit more travel bloggy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I'll keep trying to bring you guys more information. Do you want to leave them with a final thought?
Just live your life. Be happy. Let's do this.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. See, somebody who went through all the challenges, all the craziness of Vietnam, yet he still sees the value of staying there. So, it's not just one opinion. Some people have negative opinions and they don't want anything to do with Vietnam. And some people still love it and have positive opinions. It's ultimately up to you and what's right for your life. If you're thinking about coming out there, message us and we'll get you the straight talk, so you can decide what's right for you.
Brush your face and wash your teeth, son.
Yo, my man got me a job. Come to Vietnam.
The white monkey got me a job during the pandemic.
The white monkey got me into Vietnam during COVID.
The white monkey got me into Vietnam during the pandemic. I'm at school now on break. If he did it for me, he can do it for you. It's pretty easy. Check him out.
Ooh, to whom it may concern, White Monkey Syndicate got me the job of all jobs. Thank you.
White monkey got me a job. Brush your teeth.
The White Monkey Syndicate got me a job, aka your father.
White monkey got me a job.
White Santa, baby, brush your teeth.
Monkey got me a job, hit him up.
Yo, it's the Whoopi Goldberg of the East L game, educating the youngins in the Englishes.
Monkey got me a motherfucking job.
White Jesus, baby.
White monkey got me a job.
Brush your teeth.
Hey, what's up, guys? You thinking about coming to Vietnam? You're not sure where to start? You've heard a lot of things online. You don't know what's true, you don't know what's not. We here at the White Monkey Syndicate offer a consulting service where we help you get on your feet in Vietnam. We give you advice on negotiating contracts with employers. We help you with real estate agents, visa agents that are reliable and that you can trust. We help you get started in this amazing country and get on your feet. We help you get into different opportunities that might be more difficult for you if you were just landing in the country on your own. And we help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and problems that you could have as a newcomer here. We provide you with reliable job recruiters, visa agents, real estate agents, and advice. If you guys are thinking about coming to Vietnam, hit us up for a consultation. We'll help you get started, help you get on your feet, and hopefully you'll love Vietnam as much as we do. What do you think of when you think of Albania? I think of opportunity. I think of a country that's open. I think of a country that wants long-stay expats, that wants people to come and invest, wants new ideas, and is looking towards the West. I think that Albania is a beautiful country with incredible landscapes that can offer a very comfortable lifestyle at a very reasonable price. We at the White Monkey Syndicate will help navigate your journey to becoming an expat in Albania. We're working with some of the top lawyers in the city. We can help establish businesses. We can help you get your residency. We can help you get real estate. We can arrange almost any contact that you might need for the process of moving here in almost any city in the country. We will simplify the process. We'll make it a lot easier for you to move to a country that maybe in the past would have been more of a challenge. With our help, it's going to be a walk in the park.